From We Are Spectacular, this is a Spectacular Marketing Podcast, a podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food, drink and hospitality industry and beyond. So this week I've got a few public speeches coming up, including our yearly Propel social media conference and 2 sessions at lunch over at Excel. I really love public speaking, but I still always get really nervous and feel ill-prepared until I'm up there. Then the rush that you get when you're speaking and how kind everyone is after the event always keeps me going and keeps me doing it again and again. Today's guest is Maria Franzoni, who is a speaker booker at Maria Franzoni Limited, who matches companies with the best speakers in the world to help inspire and entertain their teams at their events, conferences and their workshops. Maria was kind enough to come in and share with me her top tips on how to be a better public speaker and also how to book the best speaker for your next event. It gives me great pleasure today, final in a whole batch of big recordings today, very exciting episodes coming up, to welcome Maria Franzoni. I've got that right.
You got it
so
right.
Excited.
Well done.
Into the studio. I can actually say studio. Usually we're in this sweaty man shed. So we've poshed it up. We've upgraded you, who is a speaker booker, which we'll tell you about in a minute. So welcome, Maria.
Thank you very much. And I wouldn't have come to a sweaty shed.
No, you deserve much more.
Yeah, you know me. Being a Leo, we don't do sweaty sheds.
Well, I'm Libra, so what is that close? No, not so much.
No, it just starts with L.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it's well balanced.
Yeah, apparently you are well balanced. Yes, I'm definitely not.
Well balanced and needy, I think, is basically the definition. So welcome, and a chance phone call from a few months ago has turned into meeting in a podcast episode.
I know.
So I like all this chance and fate and karma and all these things. We had a lovely conversation.
We did, and then didn't speak again.
We've done nothing else. But then you've had life-changing events. I've had some life-changing events. It's all happened over the summer.
Yeah, 2018 has been life-changing for lots of people, I think. I don't know if there's something in the energy. We have to ask one of your guests that knows about these things.
Definitely. And then we were chatting about my upcoming birthday, which is 42, which is the meaning of life, which you've just reminded me or told me. And now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm having some kind of meta explosion or something. So yeah, I'm going to need to go and figure that one out.
Yeah, and it's nice that you're so young, you see.
Well, I was with my friend Alison the other day, as I was telling you, doing this social media thing, and I think she's only 32. And I told her about my plans for the next 10 years, and I said, I'm going to be 52 then, and she almost dropped her drink.
Yeah, you look good.
You really?
Yeah.
Moisturising.
Is that what it is?
Moisturising.
Ah.
Yep. But half the face is covered, you see. So I think,
that's true.
Is that a good
so
thing?
I need to grow a beard. That's what I need to do. Right. Exactly Fringe and a beard.
There we go. So you are a speaker booker?
Yes.
Which means?
Well, I suppose speaker booker is the easiest language because people don't often know what a speaker bureau is. I run a speaker bureau, which basically means I help clients to source the right speakers for their requirements, whether it's a conference or an event or an internal training or sitting on a board. So, and there's a variety of types of speakers, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit later, I imagine.
Definitely. And your company is called?
Very imaginatively, Maria Franzoni Limited, or MFL for those who can't spell.
MFL?
Yes.
Not to be confused with the American Football League, almost.
Oh, yes. A different letter at the beginning. Yeah.
But just with my accent, people will be like, what? Yeah, so I'm going to go for the full Sunday title. So I like it. I like saying the full thing. I think it's good. So in terms of you getting into this then, because it's not a thing you might grow up wanting to do.
No, well, it's interesting actually. No, it's not. I mean, when I went to my careers officer at school, my careers officer was. I mean, to tell you how old I am, I don't know if they have careers officers anymore. They probably don't.
Yeah, but everyone wants to be a YouTuber.
We see. So they were directing me to be an interpreter or a translator or an air hostess because I have a background being bilingual. But with a name like Maria Franzoni, it probably worked that out. So I had no idea about speaker bureaus. And in fact, there's still people who don't know what it is. So I fell into it by accident. I had had several other careers in business because I really always loved business. and was looking for a change, saw a very cryptic advert that basically said, are you able to negotiate at senior level? Because some of the people we work with on both sides of the fence,
of course.
Some of the speakers are incredibly senior, some top in the world in their areas, and some of our clients are incredibly senior. And I thought, well, I can do that because I'd been a management consultant. And I thought, I've been telling people what's wrong with their business, sitting opposite CEOs and whatever, telling them, what they've been doing wrong. So I thought, I can do that. So I responded to the advert, sat down then with the MD of one of the big bureaus in Europe, and he explained this incredible industry to me. And I thought, this is lovely. This is fantastic. And it sort of allowed me to use my business acumen every day.
Yeah.
So I thought, love it.
Great. And then the way that it works then, do you have to get people to want speakers, or is there a pool of constant people wanting speakers a lot of the time anyway, and you're mainly negotiating, or is it just, a three-way thing kind of constantly?
We've been really lucky. We've been really lucky, and we've grown organically because we get a lot of referrals. So if somebody's had a good experience, they will come back to us and they'll refer somebody else. And also our speakers refer clients back. So because we look after our speakers, I hope.
No, you've got a really good reputation, by the way.
Thank you.
You really do.
You checked me out.
Yeah, of course. Don't have anyone on this podcast.
No, all right. Oh, gosh, I'm really on this now.
Almost anyone.
Okay. So we get a lot of work by referral and repeat business. And so the clients generally are coming to us and saying, so although we're called a speaker bureau, we actually serve the client, I suppose, really principally, because it's very difficult to serve two parties. So they're coming to us with their requirement, and then we're doing the matchmaking process. So we have to really understand their requirement and really understand what our speakers can deliver, because sometimes the vocabulary isn't quite the same, or sometimes you've got to think outside the box as to who would be the right profile, or what would be the right profile to deliver that.
And I guess there's always fear's not the right word, but a little worry that, God, what if it doesn't go, what if it doesn't go right, or that person doesn't perform on the night, or... Because it's humans you're dealing with as well. There's there's a lot at stake. It's big pressure.
Well, that's really interesting, because when I first got into it, I thought I was really worried about that. And then I thought, well, actually, I'm dealing with professionals on both sides. So I'm dealing with speakers who are experts in their area and really know what they're doing. Sure. So I'm not dealing with people who are starting out. I'm dealing with people who, and they may be starting out in the speaking world, but they are experts in their industry or in their business or in their sector. So I'm in quite safe hands with the speaker, and the clients know what they want, or at least they hopefully do by the time they get to the point of actually engaging that speaker and we've had the right conversations. So you're dealing with the top. So it's not real world sometimes. I have to pinch myself and think, actually, I'm dealing with sort of the top in the world on both sides. And so I sometimes I have to think, oh, hang on, this is like a rarefied air. Yeah.
And how often do you get out to go and see people in action? Or
not often enough. Because we're quite busy. Sure. And so I get stuck behind the computer, sort of, checking, who's right, doing the negotiation and sort of managing things. But I try to get out as often as I can. And we'll always go out if a client would like us there or if a speaker would like us there. And that does happen.
Yeah. And how big's the team then?
The team's 10, so we're quite small, but we are actually, we call ourselves a licensed office of the London Speaker Bureau. So I used to work as a consultant in the London Speaker Bureau and saw a niche to work slightly differently. So we're slightly different to the average bureau. And I didn't want to lose that connection because they are probably the most international in the world. And I wanted that global reach. And there's no way my small team could manage that. And so I thought, this is crazy. Let's not cut off our noses to spite our face. There's 18 international offices. They're a great team. So I work really closely with them. They work closely with us. So although we're small, I call us a small and mighty team because we've got that huge reach.
Yeah. And you are working across all countries and...
Yeah, absolutely. So we send people from this country all over the place. We bring people in to all over the place. And many companies that are based in one country will take a conference elsewhere.
Of course.
Because especially they're a global company, so it's fair in terms of travel for everybody. So an event could be anywhere in the world.
Blimey.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
It's great. It's fun. It's great fun. It is hard work, but it's very rewarding.
Definitely. And I think, you know, even just from talking to you, you know, I think I was down in Brighton that day when we spoke, you know, you could just tell like the high standards that you had. And I think I was on my toes a bit. Yeah, definitely. I was like, I've got to impress this lady. So, yeah. And, you know, when we were, you know, talking through stuff and all the rest of it, because, you know, obviously I was keen to be, to you know, be a part of what you do and all the rest of it. So, you know, it was really a whole new world, you know, and a whole new world kind of opened. And yeah, it's just really interesting in terms of what you're doing there. So thinking about it then, if I'm playing devil's advocate,
right,
you know, with the world and the connected world that we live in, surely you could contact someone just kind of off the cuff, couldn't you? So almost like recruitment agencies versus LinkedIn and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Do we need a speakers bureau these days? What you know? What?
Well,
you know?
yeah. I mean, if you know exactly who you want and how to get them and how to approach them and how to get them to say yes, you absolutely do not need a speaker bureau. The challenge is that more often than not, if somebody is looking for a speaker, they may not have the knowledge of who is out there, who's current, who can deliver within their budget, and also who can deliver the results they're trying to achieve. And there's such a sea of people. There's so many people to choose from because you can fish from a global pool. So you want somebody to sort of like, actually, could you just make that choice? Help me make that choice. And I find often a client will make a mistake of sort of delegating the sort of finding the speaker to the least experienced person in the company, instead of actually being involved and really thinking about what are we trying to achieve by bringing that person in. And that least experienced person is going to usually go from their own knowledge instead of seeking somebody to say, actually help me because I'm out of my depth here. So yeah, if you know who you want and you know how to get them to say yes, and you know what you need to do to get them to say yes, because that's the other thing, to approach somebody, especially if they're quite a big name or quite senior, or, you know, you've got to do it right. Yeah.
And then just in terms of, you know, budgets and things like that, you know, because a lot of people, you know, and I get, you know, I was going to say I got a lot of calls. I get some calls now and again, bless me, to go and speak at things, but people start at free, right? So what sort of budgets could you expect to pay for, you know, a professional? You know, things like that.
I mean, it varies dramatically. We tend to work. The majority of our speakers are sort of between the £5,000 and £20,000 range, but we have speakers up to £1 million. I'm not going to name names. We do, and there are other bureaus who work in lower brackets, and there are speakers who speak for free, of course. But you've got to really think about what you're trying to achieve and what you're wanting that person to deliver. Because at the end of the day, when people are saying, well, you know, why is that person so expensive? That person's so expensive because they are bringing their lifetime's expertise to you live in person for your audience, tweaked, and you've got an opportunity to spend time with them. That, I think, is just invaluable.
And the teams that see it, they'll talk about it forever, won't they?
Yeah, you will remember, especially if it's somebody that, and that's the value sometimes of bringing a celebrity in. If you admire someone and have a hero, you're going to remember where you met that hero and who gave you that opportunity. You'll never forget it ever.
Well, there was something that happened. I was, you know, worked at Pret, you know, a few years back, and one of the days, a couple of the guys from the Olympic rowing team came in. I wasn't really that, I'll be honest, I wasn't really that bothered. I was like, okay, whatever. And I was just kind of passing, I think, right? And they'd hired them in. I mean, I'm glad they did. It was great for everyone and all that. And I think I was kind of passing and stuff. And I was just mesmerised, like totally mesmerised. You know, you were saying about heroes, and it was people I hadn't really heard, no disrespect at all to them. And so it was just not in my world. And, you know, but it was all about, you know, does it make the boat go faster? And seeing that firsthand when that phrase wasn't really around, and the amount that most business meetings I end up in now, and I've used it myself in employee engagement training, and, you know, we got a briefing from a leisure company the other day, and it was in the brief, do as something that will, make the boat go faster. And you're like, what? But I saw it when it was in its infancy, when they were, and it was their phrase, pretty much their phrase, which was their ethos of, and that'll stick with you forever. And the value, and I can't imagine it was a fortune, but the value of those two guys standing up there, and it was just mesmerising.
And you've hit the nail on the head, is if something is memorable, then it has huge value, especially if you can then apply it and apply it and apply it. And that's brilliant. And learning from other industries, from outside industries and outside things that are completely different to you, it's fantastic for innovation and creativity.
Oh, definitely.
That's good. Lovely example.
Oh, it was brilliant. And unashamedly, I've put it in so many presentations and used it, and it's just such a smart way to look at business. Don't sweat the small stuff. Is it going to get us where we need to go? And it doesn't have to be just about sales, but it's aerodynamicy and, all that stuff. So it was fantastic. So this £1 million person then.
More than one, but we're not going to go down that route.
All right. Is it all of the Jacksons? Right. So in terms of the variance of, or I guess your fine tuning and curation then for the right person and the right event. I guess there's a sense, because you've got inspirational speakers, you've got comedic speakers, and this was something when we spoke I was really worried about, because I'm the least corporate person in the world. So when we were speaking, I was like, I'm really limiting my chances here. And then as I was getting dressed in the dark this morning at 5 o'clock, as you can clearly see, I was getting dressed in the dark.
This is not good for radio, though, is it? Like, people don't.
I'll put a picture up. I'll put a picture up. Bright
shirt.
Orange trainers. I've got a Halloween. Well, it's almost Halloween, right?
Well, yeah,
so
sure.
I've got a Halloween shirt. It's bad. It's all bad. Head to toe, it's bad. Need a haircut. Beard trim, all the rest of it. It's all bad from top to toe. Thank goodness I'm married. And she stuck with me. So from that point, so I was just like, even I had a little thought this morning. I was going, I'm hopefully trying to get some paid speaking gigs eventually, and this is almost a job interview, this podcast episode. It's not going to go so well. So never mind, that's that one, bit the dust. But so I think from that perspective, I think you're there to really think about the suitability, and it's not everyone's for everyone. Where someone that maybe is more left field or comedic or corporate or non-corporate or serious or it's a big skill.
It is like matchmaking, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think that, when I first started, I was very lucky in many ways, because I had every problem that could possibly happen in my first year, so I could see what could go wrong and therefore learnt an awful lot very quickly. And when you're inexperienced and trying to find your speaker, and this is why the value of somebody in a bureau who can advise you, you're thinking about that speaker from your point of view, from your understanding of the brief and your understanding of the objective, and you have to really put yourself in the audience's shoes, because the person that appeals to you is not going to be the person that appeals to you. So I always try to take it back and say, let's not put names, let's not look at names yet. Let's look at the profile that will deliver. Let's look at what the elements are, or what areas of expertise that would work and would fit. We then put the name afterwards. And I don't think a lot of people think that way, but it was how I was trained originally. And I think it's a brilliant way of doing it, because as soon as you put a name to it, you've now got a bias, because, oh yes, I know that name, or I don't know that name, instead of really thinking about who's going to deliver the right message for my audience, who's going to get it right. And also, if you're a completely different age to your audience, you won't know who they know.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to sit in their shoes.
Yeah. Someone I'm always excited by speaking is, have you seen Gary Vaynerchuk speak? I'm just always so excited by him.
He's not very corporate, really.
No,
he's done all right.
He's done okay. He's done all right. But I like the fact he's a bit of a rap star. He's got like hype men playing before, like all the music going, and he's got good videos, which we'll come on to later, because you've already told me off about that, which made me feel really bad at myself.
I'm sorry, I'm so bossy.
Yeah, I like it.
It's
good.
The Leo thing.
Yeah, it's good. So common mistakes then.
Speakers or clients?
Well, clients first?
Should we do clients first? I think the common mistake for clients is that they don't think about the lead time. So they will be thinking about the venue and the event way ahead, normally if it's a customer event. And actually, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't think way ahead. So they need to give enough lead time. But they leave the speaker till last when they should really be thinking about the speaker early doors.
How much time would you advise?
Do you know what? If you want your first choice, give a longer time. And, if you can give us 6 months or more, you're more likely to get your first choice, because we're already booking into next autumn, and if you're wanting somebody who's a big name, and if you have a specific person you really want to get, you probably want to think a year in advance. My best clients think a year in advance. As soon they've just done the conference and they're already speaking to me, they have a holiday, they come back, right, Maria, we're on the next one. How do we beat this? What do we do? This is what we're looking at now. This is what we've got to do. And those are the clients that get the best results, and they get who they want first time because they're available. You're not going to be able to work that way, and it's not realistic. But 6 months is great. 3 months is doable. We can work. It can be next week if necessary, but then you have to be flexible.
Yeah,
you have to be flexible. So that's the first mistake, is they don't give enough lead time, and secondly, they don't really think about what the value is that they want that person to bring. So they might be thinking, I've got a speaker slot and I need to fill it. And I think I said to you earlier, they'll delegate it down instead of actually somebody quite senior really needs to be involved in that. Because if you're briefing me, I need to understand, how does that speaker fit with the rest of your business, with the rest of your event, with what's gone in the past, with what do you want the results to be, what does success look like from that participation? Because that speaker, you should be investing a decent amount of money in that speaker. And that's the other thing. They don't allocate enough budget. They spend more money on the coffee or the dessert than they do on the speaking slot.
Yeah.
And that's a nightmare.
Yeah. And I think that can limit it sometimes, kind of, when they say, I've got 2 grand, or, I've got 3, and you're just like, maybe start at what you'd like to happen and then work it from there, that, I think that's always quite valuable.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when somebody comes to me and I say, let's work in a range rather than have allow me to go a bit further. And when I first present speakers, I will present a selection to them. I actually don't put the fees on first time, because I don't want them to be influenced by the fee. And sometimes they'll choose the one that's the least pricey, the lower fee, because it's the right fit. So I don't want them to be influenced by the fee. I want them to genuinely think, that resonates with my message, that resonates with what I want.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're dealing with somebody who's at a lower level, all they're thinking about is, does it fit my budget? Does it fit my budget? Yeah. So I do want to work with somebody who's got the big picture in mind.
Autonomy. Yeah, definitely.
Better conversations.
Okay, let's have it then. Speakers, what are we doing wrong?
What are speakers doing wrong? Oh my goodness! Right, okay. I think
lock in, people.
Okay, and again, it's not all. So the speakers we work with aren't doing it wrong, because we wouldn't be working with them,
of course,
and because we're not going to take any risks for our clients, and also for the speakers.
And for
so what do I see when I go? Let me tell you the mistakes I see when people come to me and think I should be taking them on as speakers. I see that they're not ready. They're not ready because the clients are really sophisticated. And often the client is way ahead, dealing with stuff that is just coming up, and you're having to find the experts and go out and do some research. So you've really got to be, you've got to have honed your message, honed your expertise, and be ready. So they're often not ready. And then the other thing they do is they expect us to sell them, and they've got nothing that we can. They haven't got a decently written profile. They don't have decent photography and photographs. They don't have clear understanding of the value that they bring and the problem that they solve. They're not unique. They're not memorable. They haven't got any video. Shall I stop?
No, this is great. I'm just not writing it down because I will be listening to this on repeat, on a loop, chastising myself.
Yeah, but you see, actually a great way to learn how to be a brilliant speaker is to watch Simon Cowell when he's doing X Factor and listen to what he says, because a great speaker has to do exactly what a great singer does, because there's so many singers out there and there's so many speakers out there. So what is he saying? He's looking, is there a market? is there a market for what you're talking about? And he's looking at, are you memorable? And is there something, do you have that X factor? In other words, is there something a bit unique about you? And he can smell it out and sniff it out. And actually, let me be honest here, I just want to be the Simone Cowell of the speaker bureau industry. I want to do what he does. Yeah, I want to do what he does. So I think it's brilliant the way he does. So if you're memorable, I'm going to put you forward, because I've got so many speakers, and the speakers that stay with me are the ones that I remember, but also the ones that deliver time and time and time again, that I know I can totally rely on.
Yeah. That's good information.
Yeah, was that
really
helpful?
Good. No, massively.
Okay, cool.
Just for me. Never mind anyone else. So then the process that you go through then for matching, the company with the speaker and all the rest of it, if there is such a thing, the perfect brief, what does that look like?
The perfect brief. I think the perfect brief is where you have a lot of information. So the imperfect brief is where you have very little, the way you have just the date, the venue, and maybe, I want something motivational. That's not enough. I need to know who your audience is, so that I can match the person with that audience. I need to know, are they international? Are they senior? Are they sophisticated? Have they had a lot of exposure to a lot of speakers? What's happened to them in the past? I need to know what's going on in that industry at this time that you're having this event. What's happening? What are you wanting to achieve? Who else is there on the agenda? What's worked for you in the past? What must we avoid with the speaker? What mustn't they do? What are the things you're not going to want somebody to come in and talk about entrepreneurship and have everybody leave, for example. That might be a risk. So the more information we have, the better. And that's another mistake clients make. They often come to you where they haven't thought it all through. And I've got no problem with a client saying to me, listen, tell me, what should I be thinking about before I come to you? And we start talking about a speaker. Happy to, and maybe I should do a little document with.
Well, I was just going to say, did you have a briefing sheet?
I should do that, shouldn't I? I mean, I can't. But I'm shooting myself in the head. Mistakes bureaus make. We should be helping clients to think about what they should be helping us with. Yeah,
but it goes a few ways, because we've got a briefing sheet for clients for creative, but 95% of them roll their eyes when we go, "Hey, we've got a briefing sheet," and they're like, "I'm busy enough, mate." So
absolutely. And actually, I'd rather have a conversation. But I think I'm of that generation. And of course, younger folk don't want to do that. They want to do it on email. They want to do it digitally. They want to do it, without actually connecting. But if I can connect and hear your language and hear how you speak, it's a lot easier for me to match a speaker to you when you're telling me, because you're going to tell me a lot more with your tone than anything else. I'm going to get it.
Yeah. I don't know what the centennial, millennial equivalent would be.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair, and maybe
the hangout.
You see, we're so out of date. I think you need to have somebody under the age of 20 on as your next guest, and you can ask all these questions.
Yeah, we can do that.
I think it'd be a good idea.
We can do that, definitely.
I'll be definitely tuning in.
Yeah, well, the podcasts are probably old hat, to be honest.
No, they're not. Don't say that. I have one.
So, what about when you're booking a big name?
Yeah.
What support you provide? Because I guess you're starting to get into talent, agents, rock star, this kind of...
Yeah.
What's the difference
Yeah.
from a normal business person speaking?
Well, I suppose when you're getting to a very high level, whether it's a big politician or a big celebrity, you're actually having to convince them to say yes. They don't need to say yes. They don't need the money. They don't need to do your gig. So it has to be appropriate, and you have to approach them in the right way, and you only get one chance. So that's what we do. We approach people in the right way.
Are you daunted by that?
No. I had the best training. I had the very best training. And it was really helpful and really useful to put myself in the shoes of I always say to put myself in the shoes, but I'm in the seat. Put them in make me put myself in their world.
Yes.
And say, why would that speaker be interested in saying yes? And so I often will go back to the client and say, listen, the fact that you've got 1,000 people in the audience isn't it. So you need to give me more. And so you're just used to thinking in a different way and looking at things in a different way.
Is there one common reason, or is it a million different
No,
reasons?
every person's different. Everyone's unique, and so you have to put yourself into their, world and into what that might get them motivated to do something.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and at different times of their lives, they may have different reasons why they might want to do
Yeah, they
something.
might have a book to plug,
Yeah.
or they're pushing a
That
charity,
you
or
never
this or
know.
that.
Absolutely. So yeah,
Alistair Campbell just flashed into my head there for no reason whatsoever.
he's fabulous.
Yeah,
Love
I love him.
Alistair. Yeah.
He fell asleep next to me in, not that I was talking to her in the Apple store in New York in a iMovie class.
Oh really? So you can say you've slept with Alistair Campbell.
I could.
Anybody just catching a
Yeah.
snippet of this podcast think, what's going on
Yeah.
here?
He just kind of conked up. And then I was going to ask him for I guess it was almost pre-selfie. It was like 2007 or something like that, maybe. 2008 maybe. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to bother. So I just left it. But I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I like him a
Great
lot.
speaker.
Yeah.
Great speaker.
I enjoy him very much. So what else are we up to? So in terms of that, so big name. So just while we're on the big name and high profile and the rest of it, anyone that intimidates you? Are you nervous when you meet anyone like that? Or
Have I ever been intimidated? Not yet. No, I haven't been.
like in awe? Or,
I was really excited. I've been excited to meet people. Really excited. I was really excited when I met Neil Armstrong.
You would be.
Yeah, and he was wonderful. Wonderful.
Did he tell you if it was real?
How dare you? How very dare you?
That's unfair.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that would be astonishing.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So, and I've met a few of my heroes, and that's wonderful. That's exciting.
Any other heroes you can?
Yeah, I loved meeting Anita Roddick. What a lovely lady.
Wow, yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Wonderful. I don't really want to mention anybody who's alive, really, because they're all going to say, well, what about me if somebody else is going to be a bit jealous? No. One that surprised me, actually, that I didn't think I would love so much because I didn't know what their real personality was Paul McKenna. What great fun, what a wonderful human being, what a warm man, and I love him. So he was a surprise, but what a great guy, yeah.
What does he just mainly do? The speaking now, is that mainly his?
He's got an empire. He's amazing. He's a very clever businessman, been very successful, and he's best mates with Simon Cowell. So we keep coming back to Simon Cowell, don't we?
There's a theme.
There's a theme.
Yeah.
I should ask him to introduce me.
I like. I've always liked Cowell, though. I always liked him.
He's very clever.
Yeah.
He's very clever. I've not worked with him. Would love to. I've never managed to get him to say yes.
He's the Svengali.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He is the
Absolutely
Svengali.
brilliant. Yeah.
Nice. And then, just in terms of, so what about you? I mean, we've got some questions aside and stuff. I'm just going to, what about you speaking? Do you do a lot of speaking yourself?
Do you know, I've started doing a little bit of speaking and I've resisted it up till now and haven't done any. And I've started recently because I've started doing some work with speakers, more work with speakers, because it was crazy, actually. I had an aha moment at the end of last year where I thought, I'm being approached by a lot of speakers who aren't ready. And I could be helping them get ready or helping them with their speaking business. And so that I've started doing some speaking. But it was crazy because I thought, I've got to the point, I've been doing it 20 years. I could be giving something back here. I've got some knowledge, got some expertise. So I actually delivered a speech the other week.
And was it long? How long
Was it long? It was about half an hour, which is probably about as long as you could listen to me, really.
That's plenty, yeah.
And it was about showreels. We're coming back to video, aren't we?
We are. We are. So on that topic then, what makes a good speaker?
What makes a good speaker?
So we touched on some X Factor stuff, but is there, what else is there?
I think a speaker who is current, if we're talking about somebody who's business or industry expert or educational, because of course you've got lots of different types of speakers. It might be somebody who's an entertainer. So somebody who's done some work on their speaking and honed their messages, and someone who can deliver their speech with structure so that it's easy to follow. Whether it's, they might be a storyteller, so it's the stories are easy to follow. It might be an educator, so it's easy to follow in terms of, okay, that makes sense. flowing this way. So lots of different things make speakers good.
Yeah.
But you need to work on it.
Yeah.
There are speakers who can just stand up and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, Ken Livingstone is one of those. Absolutely phenomenal. He will listen to the room, listen to the other speakers, and then deliver something just spectacular.
Yeah, just spit it out.
Yeah. He's just it's a genius to watch.
Yeah. What's interesting, mine is, I guess, my speaking spiel has been sort of cobbled together, but one of the best things I feel, that best piece of advice I got was to go on a stand-up comedy course.
Very good advice.
And it was wonderful.
Yeah, very good advice.
It's wonderful. And not that it was particularly funny, but what it taught me really was, the improv side and all that, but handling the microphone, coming onto the stage. I mean, not that you really do this because you're usually tie-mic'd up or whatever, or you get the Britney Madonna thing going on or whatever. But, getting that out the way and all that. But the story arc, the structure, really into callbacks and all that stuff. And it really taught me that very, very well. And that's never really left me. And it was only like a day's thing by some guy in Milton Keynes for an after. It was a day. Yeah. And then after that, there was going to be like a weekly thing, which I didn't do, just because of busyness of work and stuff. But yeah, that was one of the best things I ever did.
It's really good. And actually our most booked speaker across the London Speaker Bureau global group of companies did exactly that. He's a futurist who went and did a stand-up course, and he's the most booked speaker, and he's the most booked speaker for a reason, because he did hone that. So you can learn an awful lot from stand-up, from singing, from performing, from dance, to help you be on stage. Yeah, really good advice.
That was wonderful. Really good, really good. If I could only get rid of this accent, I'd be fine.
And do you know what? I disagree with you there, because the thing that you are authentic, it's you. And that's something else that speakers make a mistake, is that they have a different persona when they get on stage. Actually, you need to be yourself. Audiences can see through it when you're trying to be somebody else, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Do you know, a very well-respected professor in the food and drink industry actually gave me a massive lecture one time. Not a lecture like a professor lecture, about my accent and my dictation and he said, I need to get it knocked out. And I was like, I don't think I do, mate. So I was very annoyed with that.
You might have a problem with some foreign audiences,
but I can actually slow it
right
down.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I was pretty annoyed. I was like, you're racist.
Yeah. But there are times when, you've got a good tone of voice. That is really important. A really good tone is really important, because it's a nice tone to listen to. So if you had a very squeaky voice, I might say have some. But a very good idea also is to have breathing and voice lessons, because of course your voice is your instrument.
Oh, definitely. I'm suffering from a bit of man cold at the moment. So in terms of the structure and the performance and all the rest of it, again, there's the speaking versus, also people using slides and not slides. And have you got any advice on that side of things as well?
It depends what slot you're filling and what you're trying to achieve. And, if you're doing after dinner, you probably don't want to be using any slides.
Right.
But you might show a funny video.
Yeah.
So it does depend. If you're an educator, if you're doing a session where you are giving a lot of information, you probably will use some slides. So it really depends on what you need to be doing. And ideally, your slides need to be images, and the less writing, the better.
Yeah.
And you can certainly take some advice and some courses on what to do with slides and things. But it depends what you're trying to achieve and what you're delivering. If you're doing a breakout session or a workshop, you probably will use slides. You might even use handouts. You might use flip chart. So it has to be appropriate to what your end objective is. And I love a storyteller who doesn't use any images at all, and it's all in your imagination. But there's very few that can do that. And those that do it really, really well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, quite interesting. One of my pet hates about people speaking is they say, I'm not going to read this slide. I'm
And
not
they
going to read
read
it.
it, yeah.
It's just like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But, sorry to interrupt,
no,
but if
go
you're
on.
like an adventurer and you're talking through your adventure,
Yeah.
it's lovely to have images. It's really appropriate to
Definitely.
have great pictures.
Yeah, snow monkeys and all that
Well, I was thinking of Ran Fiennes, who's a brilliant speaker,
Yeah.
hilarious, and he has great slides. He has great visuals.
Just thinking about the price. So then in terms of difficult speakers, and
Yeah.
things like that, what do you come across in terms of, any difficulties?
So, obviously, for us, most of the speakers are, well trained, but there will be names that are a bit bigger sometimes that can behave a little bit more difficultly. Or there may be people who are starting out, having come out of a role and don't know. So the things that are difficult for us are when people aren't responsive fast enough, because it's interesting, a client wants to know, are you available? They want to know now.
Yeah.
They'll then probably take a month to come back to you to make a decision, but they need to know now if that speaker's available. So speakers need to be responsive, which can be difficult, especially if they are in a role or if they're travelling or if they don't have support. So that makes my life difficult if I can't get an answer or if you go incommunicado on me. The other thing is, if I personally like my speakers to do their own briefing, whether it's face-to-face or on a call, and 90% of the time it's on a call. And it can be difficult when that person doesn't want to do that. Now, if you are a former president or a world leader or, a huge celebrity, it's understandable. But if you are a more modest speaker and you're not going to do your own briefing call, Neil Armstrong did all of his own briefing calls.
And if he can
And
do
I
it,
think it's respectful to the client. But that's my opinion. And I have a lot of opinions. You might notice that.
it feels like that's only fair, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
So I find that difficult. It's not insurmountable and it's not a problem, but I think it's part of, I think, the experience for the client.
Yeah.
Although from the client side, when you're having somebody who's quite a big name and you're briefing them, please don't have 12 people on the call. Please just have one or two, because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's the mistake some clients make. They'll have like everybody on there because we're briefing. No, that's impossible to manage.
Yeah. Just have a couple. And then in terms of helping people develop, so you were talking about the showreel classes and things like that. So how do you help people develop?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So, this is all very new. So this started at the end of last year, and we launched a side arm to the business called Speaking Business, which I thought was a good title.
Yes.
And there's a website which you can refer to in the show notes. And really, I'm reacting to what people are telling me. So I've got a Facebook group where I invite speakers in. So where I feel that if I haven't got work for them, I'm not going to put them on the roster, because I don't think it's fair just to put people on the roster just to have them on my website. I don't want to work that way, really. So when I have got work for them, yes, I'll stick them on there, absolutely. So I've put them in the group to help them, and I can help people on a group basis, but on an individual basis, it's very hard. So there's a lot of free stuff in the group, and that's called Speaking Business, and that's on Facebook. And in addition, we run various things. So in the group, people were talking about video, that they didn't have video, they didn't have a chance to get video, or the quality of the video that they were getting wasn't very good, because often when you're videoed at an event, the event organizer isn't videoing for a showreel, they're videoing to record the event. And they want to show, you'll have the videographer right at the back, of the room to show this huge audience, and you are a little speck on the stage. Now, if I'm looking at a showreel and I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to book you, that doesn't help me very much, because you're not connecting with me now. I don't really care that there's a huge audience. I want to hear what you're saying, and I want to see your face, and I want to see you talk to me. So it was quite obvious that actually there was something there we could help. So we ran a showreel day recently and created some showreels for people. I've been asked to speak about it. We're going to also run a workshop so that people can do their own showreels, but really give them the understanding of how it fits in the business and how they should be using it, and all the things they need to think about before they get in front of the camera, which is so vital. We're going to be running a session in January as well for people who want to have an understanding of, where do the speaking gigs come from? What do clients look for? What type of speaking roles are there? How do I create a great speech? And then we've got a wonderful case study from one of our speakers who will be presenting, who will tell the story on what he did to get from speaking for free to earning 7 figures a year speaking from his speaking gigs. So it's good to have a case study that can tell you, this is how we've done it, this is how I've done it, this is what I've done. And he's, again, one of our most booked, he's the most booked speaker for us and my team.
Blimey. That sounds brilliant. So then, looking at, some of the tips of getting into paid speaking, that's definitely going to help.
Yeah.
But thinking about, the popularisation of speaking as well.
Yeah.
So obviously saying yes to things and speaking at conferences and things, but TED Talks, what's your views on things like TED Talks and these types of things? Where are you sitting on these
Personally,
things?
I love TED Talks. I really enjoy them. I think they're a great idea, and the variety of quality is quite huge. So I like the TED main stage the best, obviously, because those are the ones to aspire to. But I think they're great. I think there's a lot of wonderful topics, and my clients like them. My clients will often say to me, Maria, have you got so-and-so on your books? I saw the TED. That's a great topic. It's really interesting. And I'm always getting new speakers come to me because clients are saying to me, have you seen this TED? That's the person I want based on that. And then I'll go out and get them.
Okay.
So TED's good.
Yeah. I've never had the pleasure. I spoke, I think, at a TED speakers dinner for the TED speakers.
Right.
But I've just never had the letters. Never had the thing. But on one of the podcasts, we interviewed a TEDx speaker, and her thing was fabulous. It was all about, it was Sophie, her name was, and she did an amazing speech on self-worth and kind of inner resilience and all that stuff. So it's about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's a wonderful speech she did. In fact, I think she's Guildford. Are you Guildford?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's down Guildford.
I think I was at that event.
She did it was a great
It's
speech.
a very, very small world, isn't it?
She did a great speech. Yeah, it was fantastic. Really good.
Gosh, everything leads back to Guildford.
Yeah, but they're all roads. And then sort of branching out into writing books and all these kind of things. Are you sort of a fan or supportive of all that? Does that help?
I love books. I like to use books as a calling card, and I think speakers should use them too. But I also, if you think about it, authority. Authority.
Yeah.
The word is in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Author. And certainly certain audiences like books, and the Americans love books, of course, those audiences, and that's a great market. So I love books as long as it has, a valuable, relevant, current message. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether you've self-published or you've been published by a publisher. If your topic's right and it's presented right and it's memorable and you're delivering some value, doesn't matter who's published it.
Yeah, and it's just there.
Yeah.
And then YouTube channel and all the social, so it's making sure you've got all those things all tight.
So we don't have to worry about that because, of course, we're sort of, selling through our own website.
True.
But from a speaker's point of view, the bureau really should be, unless you're not speaking very often and you don't need very many speaking engagements, then the bureau will be the source of all your speaking.
Yeah.
But for the majority of speakers, they probably want more than a bureau can deliver.
Right.
So then you have to make sure that you are found and that you have the right things. But the important thing is video, because if a client can't see you speaking, the next best thing is to see you on screen speaking. Yeah. But it is true that the more you speak, the more you get booked.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. Was it the more you play, the luckier you get, or that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then, so the last couple of things as well then was, just looking at it, so, just, I guess, to hammer the point home, really, is saying, why would you just spend this budget? Why couldn't you get someone from the company to come in, or an ex-employee or a contact, or, someone, locally, or someone free?
Yeah.
To come in.
You can do all of those things. So, I mean, I know you have your own business and I have my own business. So I can get someone for free, or I can get the guy that's going to be thinking about my business with great expertise and therefore giving me the message and doing it right for me so that I can propel my business. I'll give you an example. I recently, so my speaking business website, I went to somebody who was very inexpensive and it didn't work out. And I went to somebody who, for me, was expensive.
Yeah.
But has thought about things that I have not thought about, has delivered such value and come up with ideas and has made me my website future-proof, which I didn't even think about that, and has questioned me. And so now I've gone back and said, actually, I want to, no problem. So you do get what you pay for. But also, if I'm running a business and I'm competing and my competitors are bringing in the best advisors and the best experts, I need to be doing the same thing, really. And these days you can get great expertise, so why wouldn't you get the best experts to help you?
And I think it's that, the classic two quotes that always come to mind are buy cheap, buy twice, or quality is long remembered after price is forgotten. It's always those two two things. You always get stung, don't you, in the long run.
And then, of course, there's the other thing. You might be spending big money to get a celebrity name because you want to put bums on seats. Because somebody like a Gary Vee will put a certain type of bum on seats because he appeals to a certain audience. Yeah. And as soon as you advertise him, you're going to fill your conference. Sure. And Richard Branson, in the same way, will fill a conference with another type of audience. Yeah. So, you pay for what you are trying to achieve.
Definitely. And then the last thing, I guess, was for anyone that hasn't done it yet, or is thinking about it, or isn't that confident yet in the public speaking space, just what would your tips be to start off or improve or get good enough to earn 7 figures a year?
Yeah. And they might not want to work that hard anyway. So I think be sure you know that you have an audience for your message. Be clear on what value it is that you deliver. And then be so confident in your content that you feel no fear and have no, worries about getting on stage, because you know that you are the expert. And there's one thing actually to always remember: when you're speaking, people get worried that they haven't followed what they wanted to follow or haven't said what they wanted to say. Nobody knows what you were going to say. So if you go wrong, nobody knows that you've gone wrong. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, just in terms of getting over the fear thing or the practicing thing, or is there any tips, like singing into the hairbrush or whatever, what would the tips be on that?
I think get some coaching, ideally, get some help. Video yourself every time you speak so that you can play it back and see and make improvements. But I really do think that once you know that you've got the right messaging and you've got the right audience that you're talking to, that fear's going to go, because they're going to be attentive and engaged, because they're going to want to hear that expertise. So there is no fear.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, I think that is so much great information about how to get it right when you're booking a speaker, how to get it right when you're a client as well. Please behave and be nice to Maria and her colleagues, and be helpful and be kind. And also, if you're thinking of embarking on public speaking, just feel the fear, face it, go and do it. Everyone's rooting for you. They'll hopefully be wishing you well. It'll be fine. So thanks so much for coming in today, Maria. That is so much great information. And I think all of our listeners will definitely feel great value from that. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much to Maria for coming into the Spectacular Marketing Podcast today. Hopefully, this has helped anyone who's been thinking about starting to do more public speaking, or has also been thinking about starting out in general and taking the first step into really bearing all in the public sphere. Please check out the podcast notes for more information about Maria, her company, and her tips on how to book that next speaker. Thanks to everyone who's written a review, gets in touch on a weekly basis, shared the podcast with one friend, and also has downloaded the podcast. We've now reached an unbelievable 11,000 downloads. We also reached number 62 in the iTunes business charts last week, so thanks so much, it means a huge deal to us. Thanks also to Gaz, Gabby and Mihal for all of the hard work in putting the podcast together. I'm Mark McCulloch, and this was spectacular.